Kicking the doors open. The webinar has started. All right. Position my coffee. This is important. Probably see if I can turn Ring Central off. Do not disturb there. Close Teams. That'll be good. All right. Good morning, everybody. I'm just shutting off devices around me that could interrupt us. We don't want that. So Tony put out in the chat, which I do have to open up, so you guys will be communicating through the chat if you have questions on this. First, we like to start out and find out who's with us, because if we don't have any interaction, I don't want to talk to myself for 35 minutes. So I want to make sure that you guys are here and hopefully get some value out of this. So if you're able to, raise your hand, throw some hello, good morning in the chat. Let me see if I can do that. Oh, this is to everyone. Not to mention, Tony told me bots actually show up for this. That's scary. I don't even know what that's about. So, okay. We may not. Oh. All right, good deal. So, Christine, hello, not a bot. I love that. Perfect. Anybody else out there want to acknowledge and let us know you're here? We'd love to make sure we have everybody. Actually, I think I can do that. Oh, Christine. Okay, Christina, sorry. Perfect. If somebody else signed up that's shy, we might have to wait for them. So besides, we got a minute or so. You guys should have received a personal family budget form from us. And I want to just start out by telling you what the class will be about and what it's not about. Budgeting, and I think why sometimes we don't get a warm reaction to it when we talk about it, is that people kind of think budgeting is me or somebody telling you, hey, don't spend this, do this, that all type of thing. This is really more, my class and this form is really just more about tracking. And I was listening to a podcast this morning and they were saying, what you focus on expands. So if you're going to focus on things like money, what we're focusing on through this form really is savings and how you're doing on savings. So the use of the form will we're going to track income coming in, of course. We're going to track expenses going out, of course. And the bottom line when we get to it is going to talk about what our savings and our savings targets and goals are. Optimally, you should be trying to save at least 20% of your income every month. Now, that 20% number comes from various places. We've done a lot of reading, and we talk about this in our financial freedom class that we also teach, where we use books like The Latte Factor, The Secret of the Millionaire Next Door, The Richest Man in Babylon. These are all great books, but really the singular concept you take from them is saving a portion of your money should be just as important as what you're spending. So with that, let's do a little screen share and pull up our form. And before we get to the form, while I hunt the form down, there we are. Okay, before we get to the form, the other thing is, this form is something that you guys will do at the end of the month, meaning that you've already cleared all of January. So today is what, February 8th? This is actually the perfect time to complete this form, because everything that was coming into your world in January and everything that's going out has already happened. So in order to do this form, you need to have a handful of things available to you. When you decide to sit down and do this, you want to have access to or all of your asset statements available to you. So your checking, your savings, your 401k, you want to have that stuff available to you because you'll need that to fill out this form. The other thing that you're going to want to have available to you We covered asset statements, any kind of billing that you have. So like a mortgage statement, a car statement, and that type of thing. So with your asset statements, oh, paychecks. And you will have your paycheck stubs available too. Although most of those are direct deposit, but there's some things we're going to pull off the paycheck stubs that could be helpful, and we'll get into what that is. So, on that note, we're going to jump over to the form and do the quick share. I'm going to adjust the form so it's in the center of my screen, make it a little bigger for me. I will do this and this. Okay, good. All right, so we've got that. I got to move the chat box in here so I can see if you guys have questions. Perfect. Okay. So where do we start on the personal family budget? So this electronic form, which you should have received, is the one thing that's nice about this is that as you go through the year, you see the tabs below, it'll cumulatively take things over like balances and whatnot and continue to add those up. And we'll get into that a little bit later, but this is a good form for the year, and this is a great month to be doing this. So we're going to start with column 5. Column 5 really tracks your income. So we're going to, should probably leave this as a permanent part in here, Tony. So paycheck deposits, paycheck deposits. I always find myself typing this one out, but paycheck deposits. So we're going to find those in our checking account because they go direct deposit, and we'll find those. And we're just going to look at our checking account for the month of January, and we're going to see we had about $3,800. And I'm using an even number, but you want to put the exact number that you have. So we had about $3,800 in payroll deposits, but we also had a couple other things. A lot of people have side jobs. So we're going to put side job, side hustle. I don't care how you list it, but we got a side job where we picked up about $400 from whatever our side job was, Uber Eats or whatever. So additionally, now again, we want to track all the money coming in. And this might seem minor, but this is really important. All the money coming in, it's important to track. So if we happen to get a gift, I'm going to put in here that we got a gift, grandmother, and that gift was $100. So we have now added all of our income for the most part. There's going to be some other income that we're going to get, and I'll get into that later. But we've got our 3 different income sources. This is the total income for the month. If we scroll down, we see we had about $4,300 in income. The next column to work on is going to be our minimum amount owed on something. So we have a mortgage. This particular person has a mortgage payment of $1,154. And we're going to track actually how much they owe on their mortgage. The mortgage is only $98,000. So we got a place to track what we owe. We've got the minimum owed, and they also have an automobile. And again, I said you have to have your statements available. So they owe about $78.55 with a minimum payment, of $299. And fortunately, we don't have any student loans. We have a great program for eliminating student loans. I'll probably talk about that at the end. We do have about $442 in credit cards, so we're going to list that. Our minimum payment on those credit cards was $40. So, and again, all we want in this column is the minimum payments. The reason for that is because that's going to give us what our minimum survival number is for the month. And we're going to build a goal around that. So again, we're not talking about how much we paid, just the minimum that was paid. So now as we go down, as you guys build this form out, we sent you our sample. If for whatever reason you don't pay electric, maybe it's included in your condominium association, don't list it. But we are going to list all of our expenses here, and here we go. So I'm going to list electric, what we paid for that, what we paid for gas, our cell phone, what we paid for cable was $129, we didn't have any sewer, but we did have a water bill that came in. That was $33. And next, we have insurance. So we had insurance that we had to pay. Maybe that's the monthly condominium insurance. We had some internet expense that we had to pay. And now we get to the fun stuff: gasoline, groceries, dining out, and doctor's bills. And what else is in here? And again, I don't, if you're going to take, so this spending number, look, if you're going to give yourself like some just knocking around cash, it's funny, a lot of people don't have cash anymore. But if you just give yourself some cash for buying a Starbucks or buying a sandwich or going out with somebody for lunch or something, I would just put whatever that kind of allowance cash is here. We're not trying to track every cup of coffee. We're just trying to track where the majority of the money is going. All right, so we've got this as our minimum, and this worked out to be, looks like I might have missed something. I have a $50 discrepancy. Give me 1 second, guys. What did I miss? 55, 41. Oh, there it is. Forgot about that. All right, so discrepancy we had also, since we're in a condo, we have a condo association due. Again, that's probably something we should leave as a permanent item in here. So our condo association dues were $150. Okay, see if that gets me where I want to be. Certainly does. So here's the thing about this column, this minimum monthly owed. This now is my survival number. So no matter what, this is the amount of money that has to come in every month. And you'll notice our form actually auto-populated something down here. This is a formula that we have built in. And basically what we're saying is that if we don't have a safety net, an insurance, something along those lines, we do need to start setting up an emergency fund. And the emergency fund should be anywhere from 3 to 6 months worth of whatever our survival account is. And that'll be probably in a money market, not part of our checking account, but a money market. This form automatically calculated that we should probably have about $11,000. Now, one quick thing between the 3 months and the 6 months, I typically tell people that you'll set a longer emergency fund if in fact you'll be out of work longer based on what you do for a living. So as an example, somebody who's in a job where they're constantly recruited or there's job opportunities all over the place, and whatever that position is, should probably be closer to a 3-month safety net. If we're talking about an executive or maybe a very specific IT professional where they know there's going to be a long process, it might involve multiple interviews, maybe there's just not as much opportunity in whatever that field is, especially if they want to stay in the Chicago market, they probably want to have a longer survival number, maybe target something closer to 6 months. Okay, so we covered the minimum amount and what this amount is, but here's the deal. When we wrote some checks, we actually sent a little bit more money than we needed to. So for example, on the mortgage, our client submitted about $1,200. Now, that extra money, albeit $46, that extra money does land in their amount saved because they did create wealth by doing that. The extra $46 came right off this balance. Anything over and above that payment is going to come off of this balance. So we're going to throw that extra payment, even though it's a little bit of money, we're going to throw it in the amount saved. That's really important. Now, we didn't overpay our car, but we did overpay our credit cards. So we overpaid our credit cards to the tune of just paying them off. We just wanted to zero them out. We didn't want them anymore. We got rid of them. So we overpaid those credit cards. Now, notice I'm not putting anything in the amount saved there. You could if you want to, but zeroing out your credit cards doesn't create wealth. Just eliminates death. Your net worth didn't go up because you don't have, you didn't eliminate those credit cards. There's nothing tangible of value like equity. So you could put it in there if you want. I choose not to. All right, and then we go that we paid 150 for that. And again, we're going to enter all of our payments that we paid. Obviously, the first time you'll do this, it's probably going to become tedious. I've done this from a class perspective many, many times, and it just becomes easy to fill this out. As a matter of fact, my wife and I have used this form for 8 years in a row. And I want to talk a little bit about that while I'm doing this, just some of the basic entry here. My wife pays the bills. At the end of the month, and when she's done paying the bills, she will work on this form and she will bring it to me. And she will basically say, hey, just so you know, this is the amount of money that came in, this is the amount of money that went out, and this is what we have in savings. The biggest reason for divorce is money. And a lot of times in a two-person household, one person knows exactly what's going on. And if it's dire, they might be the one actually dealing with all of that, and the other person might not have a clue what's going on. So that's the number one reason to do this in a two-person household. The number two reason to do this in a two-person household is what happens if something happens to the person paying the bills. The person that doesn't pay the bills is going to need to start somewhere. And having access to this form is a really good place for them to start to figure out what's coming in, what's going out, and what's that's really going to look like if the other person is no longer involved in this household. So there's another great reason to have that. Now, we get down here and we have something that we have something known as giving. We do in my house, we track giving. As a matter of fact, I'm coached by the core. Some of you know that. The core actually tracks our giving as well. We try to give as much as possible. We have a target of 10% of what we make to try to give. Some people have what they call tithing, meaning that they have a contribution that they have to give to their church. If you have, no matter what, you're going to give X amount of dollars away to your church or to whatever, that should go into your monthly survival number. So it should be part of that. If it's just, hey, when I've got something available, and one last thing about giving, we also track the type of giving. This isn't about writing a check to the Salvation Army, the United Way, great causes. This is about, hey, if you can help a friend, a neighbor, a coworker, maybe you helped them, lent them $100 or gave them $100 or bought something that they needed. All of that stuff goes in this column right here. All right. So we had the spending money that we had there. And now we have some other things that happened in the month. And I want to talk about why we want to have our 401ks around. So this particular person had $304 taken out of their paycheck and put directly into their 401k. Now, that money didn't exactly hit their checking account, so it's not here, but it is a deduction on their check, and they'll be able to, if they go look at their paychecks for the month of January, they'll see, hey, the deductions added up to $304,000. You could obviously go to your 401k statement and just see what was deposited if it's readily available, or just pull your paychecks. But two things, that $304 was paid to you, just didn't get to your checking account. And it was money that was money paid out. It was also money, really important, that was saved. So you now have, between the overpayment on the mortgage and $304 there's some more money saved. Additionally, this particular person that we're doing the example for, similar to us here across country, our company matches 50% of our first 6% that goes in. It's one of the reasons that 401ks are amazing. So that means they got another $152 that was deposited, and they made that money because their company matched them. So there's another $152 that was made. Now, the last part of this is this person is also building on their money market. They realize that they need to start building that survival number, safety net. So what they did is they deposited $280. And let's see, we have a little discrepancy, so I'll have to find out where that is really quick. 38, 100, 400, 304, 152. We have a slight discrepancy that I just want to vet out of my system. Oh, that's where it is. 304, 152, 280. Let me see if I can figure out my slight discrepancy because the numbers need to match. Doo-doo-doo. Oh. Where is my, so 30, 48, 51, 1200, 299. Sorry about that, guys. My numbers have to match. And it's probably Tony and I, she's been watching me do this for a long time and we haven't had one where they don't match. So it's bothering me. Why don't they match? Minimum paid 88.55, 129. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, we didn't have that on the other side. Oh, I know why. 129. That's our discrepancy, right? It was 129. So some reason I didn't have that in there. That's why. Okay. We'll have to, so that means this figure goes down by 1 second. Sorry about that, guys. 129. The important part about this. Okay. Okay. So 56, and I got to put up here 129. There you go. Okay. The reason I was struggling with that, and I apologize, I had to actually make a little correction in here, but the reason I was struggling with that is because this number here and this number here have to match. In other words, we're tracking all of our income, but the question is, where did it go? So column 3 is where all this money ends up going for the month. So this money ended up going to the mortgage, the car, the utilities and whatnot. What was left over, we were able to put in our money market to build our savings account. So the only thing that goes in column 4 is the amount saved. So it's the overpayment of the mortgage, the amount we sent to our money market, the amount that was sent to our 401k through our own check, the amount that our employer matched. So we saved $633. These numbers totally match. We have our survival number. We essentially have done our budget for the month. We know every penny that went in. For the most part, we have, again, this little wiggle room of this $200. I'm okay if you've got some wiggle room there, but I wanted these numbers to match. That's really important. Now, the bottom, I'm going to go ahead and fill out the bottom. So I mentioned that you have to have your assets. First of all, I want to stop there. Anybody have any questions about how to build this budget in these columns that we mentioned before I get to the bottom part? No questions? This is good. All right. So let's work on the bottom part. I mentioned to you guys that you should have your asset statements available. Now, this person happens to have about $3,975 in their money market balance. This is where this person's emergency fund should be. It's outside of checking. It's separate of that. They were able to add $151 to it. Are they where their emergency fund is? No. Most people are not, but they now know what they need to be and where that emergency fund needs to be. So that part is very, very important. All right. So they also know, and I'm going to put a couple things in here. I said they have to have their statements. So they had their 401k. They also happen to have about $1,000 in a mutual fund, and they don't have individual stock holdings, but their condo has equity, and that equity is about 31,000. They don't have any rental property. So if we go over here, surprised that didn't calculate. Tony, we got to work on that. That's supposed to auto calculate on the net worth. So I'll add that up really quick. That should be. So we've got a net worth of that. Then the total net worth is going to be this cash plus that. And again, those things should add up as well. So 49,318. And so here's what we were able to do, and we'll correct some of these formulas. I think form we grabbed was a little older, but so here, with a couple things, we knew our money market balance, we knew our 401k balance, we knew we had about $1,000 in stock. And if you're with Cross Country or you're with one of our agents that uses a product called HomeBot, you're getting an email that tells you what your property's worth every month, and it tells you what your equity is. If you're interested in having that service, send us an email. We'll get you signed up for HomeBot. HomeBot is like having a bank statement for your equity. So in this particular case, they know they had 31,000 in equity, and all the formula essentially grabbed all the cash assets, put them over here at 17,559, and added that up to any equity. This person has a net worth of 49,000. They're going to track their giving for the year, which I think is really important. And they were able to save $653, which they didn't quite hit 20%, but they saved 14% of the money they made in the month of January, which is outstanding. So it's really good. Not to mention they got rid of that nasty credit card debt, which is good. So speaking of the credit card debt, I want to talk about that real quick. There's always a debate. What do I do first? Do I send the extra money to the credit card, or do I try to build that emergency fund? I say you do both. So what you do is, if at the end of the month, in this particular case, they decided to pay off their credit cards, I probably would have done it a little differently. But they had roughly 442 plus $151 available. They had roughly about $600. They could have taken 300 and put it in their emergency fund and taken 300 and paid down the cards. I would have probably preferred that if they had big balances of credit cards and they were trying to whittle those down. Save half of it, pay down the half. Don't do one or the other. Try to do both at about a 50% level. All right. And Tony mentioned that she's going to get our formulas straightened out a little bit here. So that being said, it is 9:26. In a matter of 26 minutes, we've not only built out a budget, track this person's income, track this person's expenses, know how much they saved as a percentage, and we know their net worth. It would be very powerful for you at the end of the month to know your net worth and know exactly where you stand. We started this conversation out with a quick statement. What you focus on expands. If you focus on your savings and what you're doing there, it's going to expand. My name is Rich Kimball. We teach a lot of classes like this to our clients. We do a lot of coaching with our customers as they're entering the home buying environments. And then we do some coaching for them outside of that. We have another class, which is known as our financial freedom class. Tony will put a note in the chat. I'm hitting her with this now, but she's probably ready to do it anyway. She'll put a note in the chat that says when that next class is. We also teach a home buying class. Now notice I don't say first time home buying class. Our home buying class, home buying has changed dramatically in the last 5 or 6 years. There's a lot of things that are happening right now that just weren't around in 2019. Even the forms have changed. We don't have a HUD-1 disclosure. We have a closing disclosure. We don't have a good faith estimate anymore. We have a loan estimate. A lot of things have changed in lending and real estate. So we do provide a home buyers class twice a month. All of this is done via Zoom. If you know somebody who's thinking about buying, we have some incredible classes in education. If they're already in a home, we have some great education. I mentioned student loans. One great program that's here for a very limited time is the Smart Buy program. With the Smart Buy program, if we have a first-time home buyer buying a property in the state of Illinois, they may be eligible for up to $40,000 worth of student loan forgiveness and a $5,000 down payment assistance at the closing of their new home. That's a great program. The state rolled it out December 1st. They estimate the funds will be exhausted by the end of May. Could be faster. If you know of anybody thinking about buying a home that has student loan debt, What a wonderful gift to give them. Tony did add our next webinar, which is March 12th. That'll be our financial freedom webinar. And then this budget class will be taught again in April. We'll get you some of the revised forms. If you need anything on the real estate mortgage side, we're here for you. Thank you for showing up this morning. Tony, thank you very much for everything you do. None of this is possible without you and your assistance. Guys, have a great day. God bless. Have a great Saturday. Oh, and may all may your team you're supporting on Sunday win and all your squares hit. All right, guys. Have a great one. Take care.